Yes, so welcome to another training, another software testing training, and today we'll be talking about Scrum. So last week I remember if we looked at, if we take a quick review of what we talked about creating test plans and writing test cases. We talked about why it is important to have a test plan. It answers important questions. And towards the end of that training, I gave you guys a lab test now, or more like a training, a practice to do. And the first context I gave was I want you guys to write a test plan for the new encounter. So for the new encounter, sorry, that was missing. Um, and I wanted you guys to write a test case for the registration page and the login page. So if you look at it again, write a test plan for enquete.com. See, that's like very vague. That's like a lot. It's like saying go and write a test plan for the whole website, right? But then I now scoped it down. So this is where the scoping happened. I now scoped it down and said, okay, even though I said write a test plan for enquete.com, I want you to limit your scope to only the registration page and the login page. So this was the scope I gave you guys. And of course, before the training ended, uh, a question was asked, okay, what is the requirements? What are the requirements? Which is always a brilliant question to ask. Don't just jump in and start writing tests. You want to ask your your analyst. You want to ask your product owner what the requirements are. Now I've used two terms, product owner and backlog, and that's why I want to introduce you guys to the agile way of working or the Scrum way of working. Now, I told you guys sometime in the past when we had one of our trainings, what Scrum or Agile was. Can anyone remember what I how I explained it or how you understand Scrum or Agile? Just raise up your hands if you can remember what we talked about it. Okay, raise up your hand if you can't remember anything about it. So let's go from that angle. Raise up your hand if you cannot remember anything we talked about Scrum or Agile. Okay, okay. If are you in this call or you're away?
I'm here, sir.
Okay, so do you remember? You do remember, right? Or you don't remember?
I do remember.
Okay. What about Obi?
I think I remember a little how you explained it last time.
Okay, so we're gonna start with you. Tell us what you remember or what you think Scrum is or Agile. What it is when what do you think it is?
Okay, so let's start with Agile. Um, it's actually a project management technique that teams use to carry out their projects and to deliver tasks. While Scrum is like a type of Agile technique, one of the types of Agile techniques that is being used
Yeah.
to deliver tasks and carry out projects.
All right, great. If I is that the same thing you wanted to say, or you have a different
Yeah,
approach?
almost the same thing. Software development technique.
All right,
Almost the same thing.
great. Chinon, so you're raising up your hand.
I remember you said in agile is is a technique that you don't have the company doesn't have to wait until all the whole functionality is available. They just keep putting in functions gradually until it's complete. They don't wait for the completion of a project before they start.
Ex- exactly.
Um,
So that is the process. So I'm just gonna refreshing your mindset. We talked about Scrum when we were talking about SDLC. So if you remember SDLC, SDLC means Software Development Lifecycle. the different phases a software project goes through before it gets completed. You have the planning, the analysis, the design, the implementation, the testing, and the maintenance, and then it goes. I mean, production happens here. So this is how every software is being built. So this is the life cycle of a software. Just the same way you say water cycle. Water cycle starts from rain. Rain falls, it goes to the ground. It goes to the ground. From the ground, it goes to the sea. From the sea, it evaporates back to the cloud, and from the cloud, it comes to the rain. So this is the life cycle of a software. However, as a company, you have to structure how you want to pass through this life cycle, right? So remember last time I talked about the waterfall method. These are models. So Scrum and Agile is a model. Waterfall is a model. So remember I told you about waterfall method, which every stage has to be done before you go to the next stage, which means that if you get to testing and the testers find an error in the code, they have to go back all the way to the requirements again, and then everybody under have to wait till requirements are done, and then analysis starts. When analysis is busy, design and all these people have to wait. So it was a very this waterfall is not really a very efficient model because everybody you might be working and not sorry you might be waiting and not do work for months because the team above you have not finished their work yet, and that's just waste of money, waste of time, and it makes project take longer to finish. So that's why agile is shining. So Agile takes the projects, break it down into little parts, and work on those little parts as features, and keep iterating. So that's why you see something like this. So the an Agile takes that big project, breaks it down into sprints. Sprints are mostly like 2 weeks, 2 weeks time frame, and they build the design. They design it, they develop it, they test it, they deploy it to production, and then they go again. They start the process all over again, take another feature like that. So that way, instead of building a whole castle at the same time, they start with foundation, they deliver the foundation, they deliver the left wall, they deliver the right wall. That way, the project will just be going instead of trying to finish everything at once. So that is in a nutshell, on a high level, how Agile works. And like Obi said, Scrum is a subset of Agile or is a type of Agile. So let me give that as an example. How would I think about that? So let's say um, uh, video games. So you say, I want to play video games. Nintendo is a type of video game. PlayStation 5 is a type of video game. Xbox is a type of video game. The idea is the same. You have a control, you play, something moves on your screen, you can play exciting adventure games. It's the same idea. You have fun with it. However, different companies implemented it in different ways. For example, Game Boy or Nintendo Switch, their controller is different than that of a PlayStation 5. A PlayStation 5 is different. The controller is different, but fundamentally, it's doing the same thing. Their goal is to bring fun to people's homes, to make them enjoy virtual realities, play games, football, all of these things to enjoy. But the implementations are different based on different companies and how they implemented it. So that's how you have to see Scrum and Agile. Agile is the framework, then Scrum is a type of it. You understand? So that's why I think last time I showed you guys that there are different types of agile implementation. So if you Google different agile methodologies, you see if we go to the image, let's see. So you see agile methodology, we have Scrum is a type, Kanban is a type, Crystal, extreme programming, they are all types of agile development. So you have a group of people come and say, okay, we're not going to do it like this, we're going to change a little thing or this part, we're going to switch it to our own style and stuff, and they gave it a name. So but fundamentally it goes through the same process, which is delivering products in iterations. So iterations again are you're gonna hear that word a lot in Scrum Agile, or iteration means you repeat it. See this? It's an iteration. It repeats. So you deliver, you go to the next one, you deliver, you go to the next one, you deliver. You just keep repeating it, repeating it, repeating it, and that way, over a short period of time, you'll be able to have your full product instead of waiting for everything to be done. So I want to introduce you guys to it, and that's how we're going to tackle this test uh, case I gave you guys. Now, first of all, I want to tell you guys the different roles of an agile team. So this is exactly what you would experience when you start working for any company that is practicing agile. And I can tell you, at the moment, more than 95% of companies around the world are working using one form of agile. Is it that the most popular one is Scrum, and yeah, other companies are using one form of agile development. So it is very important that you have an understanding how it works and the different roles. If you understand this, when you get into a new company, when you get into a team, a lot of things will not be new for you. You will understand what's going on. So you see a lot of time I use the word PO. PO is a product owner. I remember in the past, people were used to, when you have a business, you have someone they call a manager. Your manager is like your boss. Your manager tells you, I want you to do this by 5 o'clock. I want you to get out of here by 2. I want you to deliver this product by 8. That's not how Scrum works. Scrum does not have a boss. Scrum has a product owner, and I'm going to explain what a product owner. A product owner is not a manager. A product owner is not someone that is going to command you and tell you, um, I want this to be done by 5. I want this to be done by 2. No. Any team you go into and the product is behaving like that, that product owner is not practicing Scrum. So you can see Scrum more like a religion. You understand? There are rules to religion. You understand? You have to act a certain kind of way. And if your product owner is bossing you around and telling you, why didn't you finish this by 5? You have to call your management and say the PO is not acting as is not following the Scrum way of working. Because a product owner is not a boss, is not a manager. A product owner is a product owner, and I'm going to explain what that means. So what happens is that the product owner is actually the person that discusses with the business. The product owner is the person that gets the requirements from the business. So I don't know. Last time I explained what the business is. When you hear the word business, the business is more or less the people paying all of you, the owners of the company. So, for example, Facebook wants to add a new feature. They want to add a button that you can upload an image. Now, the management team, all the way at the top, Zuckerberg and his guys, they come, they have a meeting. They're like, listen, we want Facebook to be more interactive and people can take pictures. You know what? We think we should add the possibility for people to take pictures, right? They have that discussion, they agree to it, and then they communicate it down the channel down to a team that has a product owner, and that team is probably responsible for the screen that where the button should come. And then the product owner goes and have a meeting with the business or with the Zuckerberg people or whoever Zuckerberg uh, appointed, and they explain what they want to the product owner. They say, listen, we want a button that is going to make people interact. They don't have all the details. So this product owner, they are not the one that is going to say, oh, a lot of they don't know it. They don't have any idea about technical parts. They just know that they would like a button to come at on that screen. Get it? So the product owner gets those requirements and then comes to his team. So a product owner has his own team. So you see, this is a team of a typical team, a typical dev team. So you have a product owner, a scrum master, and the dev team, the scrum team. So we're gonna go gradually there. So what the product owner does is the product owner gets the requirements, understands the requirement, then brings those requirements to the team. Now, which we're going to see how that plays out. So now, so that's what it does. Then the product owner also states that okay, this is how much we're going to break this requirements down into different user stories, which is different small chunks of work, and then we're going to do only 3 this week and do 3 next week and stuff. It kind of like plans how they're going to solve that problem, and then discusses it with the team, and the team all they agree to how and when that particular feature will be delivered, right? So that's how he does. He doesn't play boss over the team. He works with the team. You understand? Then the Scrum Master is someone who just makes sure that the team has everything they need to be able to accomplish all the tasks that the product owner is going to bring. All the task or requirement that the product owner is going to bring to the team and say, this is what we would like you to build for this 2 weeks or for this coming month. So the Scrum Master is a facilitator. A facilitator is more someone that just makes sure that you have what you need. So, take how would I give an example of this? So, for example, if you're a footballer, right? If you're a footballer, you have You or you're a boxer. I think a boxer is a good example. At least that's the one I can remember. So if you look at people boxing, there's always somebody that is holding the towel, bringing water, pouring this. That person is a facilitator. That person is just the boxer just need to say what he needs, and that person will just rush and bring it, so that that boxer will feel more at will have a better disposition to continue his fight. So imagine now the boxer is thirsty and he has to call someone from the back to bring water. And then before he's calling the person, they ring the bell. Do you think that boxer will perform optimally? No, because he's thirsty and he's gonna keep boxing, and he's gonna be feeling too hot. But you have that person holding the towel, pouring him water. That's a facilitator. He's gonna say, "Oh, I need some water." They'll put water in his mouth. Prrr. They say, the person will be massaging his back. He'll say, "Can you tell the coach that I'm not doing this?" He will run to the coach. He'll talk. That's a facilitator. That's the same work a scrum master does. A scrum master just makes sure that the team has everything they need. If the team is struggling with maybe computers are not working, or the business did not provide a good workspace, or maybe one server is down, the team will talk to the scrum master. The scrum master will just run and start calling people to make sure those things are working. The scrum master is also not a boss, is a facilitator. Sometimes also, if the team is not really happy with the product owner, maybe the product owner is not explaining things well, or is not gathering information, and they are just maybe not maybe you just don't feel comfortable talking to the product owner because maybe, yeah, I don't know, maybe you don't see him often. The scrum master is your go-to person. You go and you complain your problems or whatever is going to hinder you from your work. You discuss that with the scrum master, and the scrum master facilitates, make sure that everybody has what they need in the team to function. Then the team comprises of the developer, the analyst, the tester, and sometimes in some cases the designers. So this is the team that will make whatever requirements that is brought to them. Together they deliver that stuff. Do we have any questions so far? If you have a question, please raise up your hand. Okay, so I'll take it. There's no question, right? So just understand this name. So the short form mostly you hear is PO. Uh, you have to talk to the PO, or the PO has. Once you hear PO, that's product owner. Mostly everybody calls Scrum Master, and yeah, the team is the team. So you talk about the dev, you talk about the testers, you talk about the analysts and stuff. So, but the only short form I know I hear a lot, or we use a lot, is PO, product owner. Now, let's zoom a little bit in. So, what are the rituals that happen in a Scrum team? The rituals are more, when I say rituals, what are the things that happen on a daily basis, on a weekly basis? So, everybody has a ritual, right? If you think of yourselves, some of you are probably Christians, some of you are, I think maybe somebody's a Muslim here. I think Sumbo is a Muslim. Um, and yeah, even those that are not religious have a certain routine. I'm just joking, Sumbo is not Muslim. Um, So for for you to be in a certain kind of habit that will be productive for you, or that will make you accomplish some whatever goal you set out, you need to follow certain rituals. Some of us don't even know we follow rituals, but yes, we all do follow rituals, some kind of ritual. Even you waking up every day to brush your teeth is a ritual, and that ritual you have put it in place because because of that ritual exists, it keeps you healthy. It makes sure your teeth is in a healthy condition. So it's the same thing with your Christianity or your religion. If you watch every Sunday, you go to church, or maybe in between you read your Bible, blah 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 blah. Because of you have a certain set of rituals that makes your spiritual life, or that religious life you're growing to function better. So rituals are very important to set in place, and that's why also within the agile framework, within the Scrum framework, there is there are rituals you need to understand. So we are going to be looking more on the Scrum type of development within the Agile framework because it's the most popular. So I'm going to introduce you guys to some rituals. So you're going to hear these names, and I'm going to try to repeat these names over and over again so that you get used to it. So what does a team do every day? Every day that a team comes together, they perform what you call daily scrum or daily stand up. Daily scrum is just basically the team. as a team, you people agree on a time in the morning to talk about what you guys did the day before and what you guys are going to do today, and what if there's anything blocking you, if there's anything that's going to hinder you from performing your activities. We call that uh, we call those what you call it again? Um, yeah, I can't remember. But if there's anything, I'm going to remember the name in a bit. So you have to say what you did yesterday, what you're going to do today. And now the word I was looking for is impediments. If you have any impediments, impediments are if you have anything that is that is hindering you from performing your duty today. So that's the first ritual. Every day you come together, you take a round, one person, everybody talks one by one, the whole team, and then you say what you've done yesterday, what you're going to do today, and if you have any impediments. And sometimes even if you need some help from your team members, you mention that on a daily stand up or a daily scrum. Then another activity, so you see on this daily scrum part, you see the people that are mostly involved are the development team. Now the product owner doesn't necessarily have to be on in the daily scrum. It's either called a daily scrum or a daily stand up. That's the name you hear about it. So a product owner does not necessarily have to be in the daily stand-up all the time. The scrum master does not have to necessarily have to be on the daily stand-up all the time, but in most cases they are there. The people that must be there in the daily stand-up is the dev team, the tester, the developers, the analysts. They need to be there every day. You understand? Then another ritual that happens during an agile workflow is called sprint planning. Sprint planning actually is a meeting you guys that you plan as a team where you discuss what kind of work you guys are going to do on the next sprint. Now, remember I told you guys that whole big project you break it down into sprints, you break it down into small chunks of work, and then you now focus on that chunk of work for 2 weeks. Some teams do a sprint can cost like 2 weeks. Some sprints cost like 3 weeks, depending on what you guys as a team agree on. But typically, most sprints cost last just 2 weeks. So you guys are going to plan the kind of work that is going to be taken into that sprint. So you just move it. We're going to see how that looks like in that DevOps environment that I shared with you guys. So sprint planning, remember, sprint planning is where the team plans what tasks they are going to pick up on the next sprint. Then we also have another ritual called sprint retrospective or retro. So what happens is at the end of every sprint, the team have to come together. You have to plan a meeting and come together and be like, okay, guys, we just finished our sprint. What did we learn? What can we do differently? Do we have any complaints and stuff like that? So that is what happens during a sprint retrospective. The team reflects on the last sprint and try to come up with solutions to problems or discuss things as a team that needs to be solved. Then uh, the last one on the screen is the sprint review. Now, the sprint review is more like uh, a demo. I think we're missing one as well. There's one more step that is missing. But the sprint review, however, is more like a demo. A sprint review, what you do with the sprint review is when you are done with your sprints, when you're done with the task that you guys are supposed to do on that week, the the scrum master will plan a demo where you guys are going to present what you have done to the stakeholders. The stakeholders, remember, are the ones that talk to the product owner and say this is what we want. Then the product owner tells the team and they build it. They use 2 weeks to build a part of it. And then during the sprint review, they're like, okay, guys, this last sprint, this is what we were able to build. We were able to add a button here. Look at what the button does. You do a physical demo of it. Sometimes, if it's not even it, if there is no physical thing built, you also discuss it with the stakeholder. So what happens is this is actually a meeting. The stakeholders are present in that meeting and most of the members of the team. And the person that mostly takes the lead in this sprint review is the product owner. The product owner presents. Remember, the product owner is more like a face, the face of this team, is the contact person between the business and the the team. he presents it, and sometimes the product owner can say, okay, Darlington, can you tell us this part of the feature, what you did, what did you build, how does it work? Show us, click through that place, that thing. Let's see how it actually works. And then the stakeholders will be observing, and then if they have any questions, they can say, oh, okay, why is the button yellow? Why don't you make it black? Why is this? Why did that happen? Why did that happen? So the stakeholders can give feedback immediately. Now, there's one more step that is not here, and that is called refinement. I don't know why it's not on this list. So there's also a step called refinement. Refinement is when as a team is a meeting. Is also another meeting that the team plans with the product owner and the analyst, and they discuss this is what needs to be built, and these are the requirements of what needs to be built. So that is also what I'm going to do with you guys today. So I'm going to do what we call a refinement. Refinement is I'll be playing during the refinement. I'll be playing the seat of the analyst. I will explain what these requirements are. I told you I want registration page and the login page. Then during the refinement, I'm going to explain. Okay, this is what needs to be done. These are the requirements, and further I'll break it down to user stories and stuff, which we are going to see. So let's go back here. So again, one step is missing here, which is called refinement. So I don't know why they missed it here. So any question so far? If you have a question, please raise up your hand. All right, Obi.
Okay, so I don't quite get the what happens in the
Okay,
sprint retro.
very good question. So the
Difference between the
sprint
sprint
retro
retro
is
and the
a
sprint review.
team meeting. Nobody comes into that meeting except everybody in this middle block. There is no stakeholders, nothing. This retro is a meeting for everybody in this middle. So think of the word retrospective. That's what retro means. Retrospective. The word itself, retrospective, means reflection. You understand? That's why you say you have sentences like in retrospect, in retrospect. So yeah, I was very angry yesterday, but in retrospect, I wasn't even supposed to be angry because now that I think about it, when I think back now, I realize that I wasn't even supposed to be mad. So retro means to to look back and try to evaluate, to learn from what's ever happened before. So a retrospective again is a meeting that where the team comes together and discuss how they experienced the last sprint. You understand? So the last sprint, which is, remember, a sprint is mostly 2 weeks where the team work on a set of tasks or a set of features. They might say, okay, we're going to add a button, we're going to create a landing page, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Then after that 2 weeks, it has ended. That means the product is ready. They now have to deploy it to production or they have to present it to the stakeholders. Then before that, the team comes together and say, okay, how did how did we experience this last 2 weeks? Were there problems? Were there things could have been done different? How did we behave as a team? Is there something we should do differently? So you have a reflection and you discuss it as a team. Then the sprint review is a demo, is a meeting where you showcase the work you've done to the stakeholders. So that's the difference. Retrospective is reflection of you guys as a team. Learn from how you guys work. Is there something you guys can improve on? A sprint review is you take what you have done for that last 2 weeks and you showcase it to the business. You showcase it to the stakeholders. You say, guys, this is what we worked on the last 2 weeks. If it's a button, you click. You say, if you click on this button, this happens. This happens. This happens. Does that answer your question, Obi? All right. If I saw you raise up your hand.
Yes, very clear now.
Yeah, I want to make sure I understood everything correctly. Like this, the sprint retro, sprint planning, and the daily scrum, sprint review. They are
Exactly. They are
various
all
meetings that
meetings,
happen
and the
in
frequencies
various
vary.
time
So
interval, like not
daily
at the same time.
Scrum happens every day, every morning. That's what you start with. Every morning, that's what you start with. So you and your team will, like for me, the company I work for now, our daily Scrum starts at 9:30, and we do it for just 15 minutes. 15 minutes is the guideline that within the Scrum, like I said, religion has its own rules. Within the Scrum guidelines, they advise that keep your Scrum, your daily Scrum, only to last only 15 minutes. Don't make it too long. In that daily Scrum you just mentioned, what did you do yesterday? What are you going to do today? Do you have any problems? Do you have any impediments? You understand? So that happens every day. Now, the sprint planning, depending on your team, sprint planning could happen once a week, once in 2 weeks, or twice a week. It depends on what you as and your team agree on. The retrospective happens once every sprint because remember, retrospection happens at the end of the sprint. You guys now reflect. It's just a reflection. So at the end of the sprint, you sit together and you try to learn and be like, okay, what did we do last week? What could be better? Was there any? What made your work hard? That's a reflection. So that happens once. That happens at the end of every sprint. Then the sprint review also happens once at the end of every sprint because remember, sprint review is you showcasing your work to the business. Then refinements, which was not set here. So let me just give you guys. Let me see if I can get YouTube can give us uh, an idea. Let's say Scrum refinement. So you can see. Maybe we'll get an image where they added it. Let's see. Let me see refinement meeting. Let me see if we can have an implementation. Okay. All right. I don't see anything really quick where we can see it visually because I'm more of a visual person. I always want to show you guys stuff visually. Sprint planning, daily stand up, retrospective. Okay, so I'm not seeing it in most of this. Okay, so however, yeah, there's a task missing here. Retrospective. The retrospective is very important. I don't even know why it's not here. It's one of the most important meetings because the retrospective is where the business analyst will come and say, okay, this is what we need to build. He's going to explain everything to the team and say, okay, this is it. These are the requirements. Then the team can ask questions and be like, oh, what about this? What about that? Do we need to do this? Do we need to do that? And that's what I'm going to practice with you guys today. You understand? We're going to go through a retrospective. The retrospective is a preparation. The, sorry. Refinement. I'm using the wrong word.
You
I'm
mean,
very sorry. Thank you, Obi. I mean refinement.
you
So the
mean
refinement is
refinement?
something that happens and must happen before the sprint planning because you only plan tasks that you have already refined. So refined that you've already refinement is more like you only plan sprints that you already understand. So it's just like saying, okay, let's if I told you, okay guys, let's make a plan for registration page and login page. You guys will be like, well, guy, where's the requirements? I don't know. We cannot plan something we don't understand. So that's why a refinement meeting has to happen first. Now, in that refinement meeting, the business analyst will now break down the things that need to be done, tell you guys what the requirements are, and then if you guys have any question, if there's some misunderstanding, that's where you discuss it. And then when it's refined, when it's like, yes, we understand it, we're good to go, then during the sprint planning, you can now take it along. You see this? This is called the product backlog. You can now select that sprint and put it in the product backlog. But I mean, and put it in your sprint. But we're going to see this in action as we go on. So that's it. Any other question? All right. So let me also pull up another picture to also show you guys. I want to drum these ideas into your head because this is how you would work. In fact, I would say any team you want to work with that is not working using Scrum, Agile, don't work there. It will be a horrible place to work. So Scrum is the way to work. All companies are working. Most companies that are serious work with Sprint, with Scrum. Actually, the company I work for right now, when I started working there, they did not have Scrum, and I told the management, I said, listen, if we don't work with Scrum, I'm not going to work here. and the management had to give me and my colleague, because we were hired at the same time, they gave me and my colleague the go ahead to set up the team to work with Scrum. So I and my colleague, we set up the whole thing. We set up we introduced it to the team. We taught them how it works. We implemented like these things. That link we're going to look now, Azure DevOps. We set that all of these things up, and we started the rituals. And we are now way more productive. If I measure, we are now 75% more productive than before we even came to the company, and that's why the company is very happy with me and happy with my colleague as well, because we brought Scrum into the company, and we showed them that it really works. You understand? So if they had said no, we're not going to work here, I would have left there already by now, because then it's going to be very difficult to work. Because then you want to have a boss that's going to be like, why didn't you finish at 6? Why did you do this? Why did you do that? No, Scrum does not work with bosses. We work as a team. It's a team mentality. That's how Scrum works, and as we go on. So this is another picture that also illustrates a couple of things. Product owner, remember, product owner gets information from the business. Scrum master is a facilitator. The This is your team. This is your product. This team here, this person with the laptop, represents developers, testers, analysts. That is the team, and you see what happens in the sprint process, right? So in the sprint process, we have what you call user stories. The product owner plans the user stories, which is what we're going to see. A user story is basically your requirement broken down into little bits so that it's easier to manage. We're going to see that. I think if some of you have also opened up the link I sent you, you would have seen I already set up user stories, right? So what the product owner does is the product owner is going to be like, okay, for this next 2 weeks, we're going to work on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 user stories, and he takes that and he puts it into what you call a sprint backlog. A sprint backlog is just basically a task board, like a group. We're gonna see that, and then you plan the sprint. When you plan the sprint, everybody agrees that, remember, we saw that plan. When the sprint is planned, then the team works on it. When the team works on it, uh, they deliver the product, this review bits, we review it, we demo it to the stakeholders. When the stakeholders look at it, then the team comes back and have a retrospective. Remember the retro? You look, what did you learn? When that is done, then we move to the next sprint. We keep going iterating like that. And you see, it says 2 to 4 weeks. It's just telling you that a sprint typically lasts between 2 to 4 weeks. So if you're having sprints that are longer than 4 weeks, then that's too long. That means you're not really following the Scrum Agile way of working. So a team sprint should last typically between 2 to 4 weeks. And yeah, so this is a team. So this is another mental picture I wanted to share. Let me share another one to show the iteration. So you see also here again, this vision means that it's just more or less saying that. So um, so the vision comes in from the business, the business analysts with the sometimes with the help of the product owner, with the help of the business analyst, breaks that requirement into small features, which is the user stories, breaks it down. And yeah, you see here, then the product owner then plans that, okay, we're going to pick this sprint, puts it into that happens in the sprint planning. You see that, and then it's on the product backlog, and then this is the daily scrum. You see, daily scrum happens every day. It's every 24 hours. That means you have to keep doing it every day. It's called daily scrum or daily stand up. Remember, I told you you hear these two words, they mean the same thing, which is the ritual you do every morning. You talk about what you've done before, what you did yesterday, what you're going to do today, and what problems you're encountering. See, that's what's happening here. Then this is let's see, what is this? So this is the iteration of the 2 to 4 weeks iteration of the sprint, and yeah, these other parts I will introduce you guys to it as we keep going. So this is also a mental picture. You see, it's a process. It just keeps happening over and over again. You see, if the team delivers the product, we start all over again. News stories, we plan for it, we have a daily stand up about it, we have 2 weeks again, we deliver, we send it to production. We start all over again. So that's how we keep iterating this process till we finish the product. Now let me see if we have another mental picture again. So yeah, so you see this is another way of representing it. So you have the product owner, the team, the scrum master. This is the retrospective. You see, the retrospective is the team coming together, discussing what they did. So if you look at this picture, the retrospective, you see, this icon was the scrum master. So the scrum master, you see, is part of the retrospective. Sorry, the product owner. Sorry. If you look at this guy with the tie, the blue one, you see, is the scrum master. And then all these colored people here, you see, is they're all members of the team. So you see, nobody else is here technically. Then this is the sprint review. So the sprint review comprises of members of all the team, but also stakeholders, because you are going to present it. You're going to present it to your stakeholders. So every team has teams. Some teams have their own dynamics. So so we see that okay, this is another presentation. So you see here we have features, which we're gonna see in we're gonna see an example of that. So feature is also a way of breaking down big requirements. You break down into features, and then you take those features again. You break it down into tasks. When you break it down into tasks, then you put it into what you call your sprint backlog. And from the sprint backlog, you then do your planning, and yeah, you do all your whole iteration. So you see we have a product backlog here. You refine. You see that word, as we finally got it, refinement. Remember that refinement is, it's, you must have a refinement before you have a sprint planning, because if you don't have a refinement, that means, yeah, nobody understands what we need to do, or yeah, you have to explain what we need to do. You cannot just tell us, yeah, test or build a registration page. What are the requirements? What is it? That discussion happens during the refinement, and yeah, every other thing as we see here as stuff we have already talked about. So, any question before we go into our real implementation? So we see how it works. If I
So my question is, let's say I'm working with a team, either as a developer or a tester, and a user story that is supposed
um
to
okay,
be done
it's a
in
good
a
thing
week, I
depending on
finish it
what
in
you
a
are trying
day.
to
Is
achieve.
that a
So
good thing or a
I
bad
would
thing?
say if you are new to a team, if they just employed you, try to do that as often as possible. What will happen is that the team is going to respect you. They're going to know that they must keep you because you finish your work fast and you know what you're doing. And yeah, you just become very important to the team. It shows that you are good. Um, however, you're if if you are in a good Scrum team, when you finish your work quickly like that, the next thing you should do is try to look for someone else in the team that you can help. So that's why I said Scrum or Agile way of working is you think more as a team. You don't think, oh, I finished my work, I don't have anything to do. No. When you're done with your own task, you knock on the doors of your fellow developers. During your stand up, you mentioned, yo, guys, what I did last week, I finished my work. So today, I don't really have anything planned on myself, but I do plan to help the members of the team. So if anyone needs any help, please let me know. But yeah, I'll be checking on you, Brian. I'll be checking on you if I'll be checking on you, Obi, and maybe I can help you. We can look together and try to finish the task you're working on, or or Obi could be like, no, 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 no need. I can finish it myself, or and if there's totally no work for you, what happens most of the case is you have to go to the scrum master and say, guys, I have nothing to do. So, and then the scrum master will talk to the product owner and they'll give you a new task. But the first thing you want to do is try to help your fellow team. So that, because if you guys don't finish, if everybody does not finish their work, technically from the business side, they don't say if I did not finish his work. No, they say the team did not deliver. Do you understand? So that's why, like, being in a scrum team is more like being in a football team. It's teamwork. You have to think as a team. You understand? One person struggle, we all struggle. You understand? Now it's possible you work in some companies where people don't understand very well how scrum works. So we call that those kind of teams immature teams. You understand? So like if I have an interview to work for a company, the first thing I ask is How mature is the Scrum team? It's literally a question I ask. How mature is the Scrum team? That question means, does everybody in that team understand very well how Scrum works? You understand? And most people will give you typical answers. They'll be like, oh, yeah, we're still learning, we're still getting used to it. Or, yeah, the team is very mature. So, in a mature team, everybody works as a unit. We work together, we support each other. You understand? And if you have a team like that, like the team I work for right now, we are very mature. We are a good Scrum team. And it's one of the coolest team I've worked with because everybody is like, we're holding each other's hand, we're solving problems, we're having fun, we're laughing. You know, it's just we look at ourselves as one unit. I've also worked in companies where the Scrum team is so immature that even during our stand up, people are arguing, having misunderstandings. You understand? And that happens. So depending on the company you work with, some teams are already mature, some are not mature. But most of the time, if you understand the principles of Scrum, when people are behaving weird, like I gave you an example, if the product owner is being too bossy, you're going to call it out. You're going to say, listen, this is not the way Scrum works because you understand it. But if you don't understand it, you'll be like, oh, you'll be uncomfortable. The man is doing whatever he wants, or the woman is doing whatever she wants, shouting at people. If you understand how Scrum works, you're gonna say, "Yo, this is not how Scrum works," and you're gonna discuss with management. And mostly when you do that, they understand that okay, this guy understands how this thing works, so we cannot just be doing anything anyhow. But mostly the first person you complain that to will be your Scrum Master. Remember, your Scrum Master is your facilitator. If there's anything making you unhappy on the team, you discuss with your Scrum Master first. Does that answer your question, Ifeanyi? All right. So we're gonna take a 5 minutes break. Okay, Justin has a question before we go.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, my question is in a Scrum team, these roles, for example, are they like rotational or is just one person and that's it? I mean, yeah, for business developer, we know that that is his role. But the other role, the other people that are part of the Scrum team, for example, is there a
Very,
way
very
of
good
like
question. That's a very, very good
rotating
question.
what
So, first of all, I'm going to
um,
tell you
the team
roles
members
that they
does
don't
at intervals
rotate.
within this
A product
period?
owner cannot be rotated. If a company hires a product owner, that product owner stays the product owner. A Scrum Master does not get rotated. If a company hires a Scrum Master, he stays a Scrum Master. Developers and testers generally are not supposed to be rotated. They are not. A developer is a developer. A tester cannot program like me. I'm a developer. However, there is a concept that most teams are trying to promote. It's called T-shaped. Let's Google it. So I'm doing this so you know that these things are really existing stuff that are happening in companies. So it's called T-shaped. So you see, let me explain how T-shaped looks like. So most companies or most teams want to practice what you call T-shapes, T-shape. And T-shape means if you see how it looks like. So you have one line here that is very long, and all these other blocks are small, small blocks. So what they're trying to say is you you guys, for example, are hired as a tester. That's your core skill, that's your core expertise. You understand? That's why you see the line is long. You have very long experience with this. You know it's in and out. This is why they employed you. You are a tester. But you know a little bit of SEO, you know a little bit of business, you know a little of UI, you know a little bit of programming, you know a little bit of finance, you know a little of writing, you know a bit of marketing. Because in your team, you have people that have this knowledge. Now, why companies promote T-shape in some cases is because in case the programmer is not allowed around today, maybe he's sick, you that is a tester can do a few things that he knows how to do. For example, you know, as a tester, you know how to deploy a product to production. That is something the developer almost always does by himself. But today he's sick, and you as a tester, because you guys are practicing T-shaped, you know, oh, you can't program everything, oh, but you know where to switch, where the lights are. You know how to press this button and what it will do. So that means you know a little bit of skills of every other members of your team. You know a little bit of what they do just in case they are not around or they are sick, you can handle some tasks. So To come back to your question, okay, to before I come back to your question, in most cases, this T-shapes doesn't really work. It's a good idea, but yeah, uh, I have not seen it work very optimally. You understand? What in my experience, for example, I could be very good at my core competence is programming or a developer. I might know a little bit of UI testing, but I have no idea about the business part. I don't have any. Don't. And if you start pushing me to learn it, sometimes it affects my main work. If you start saying, "Oh, Darlington, have you taken some time to learn a little bit of business, a little bit of SEO, a little of psychology?" It affects my work because I want to focus on my own core competence. I have stuff to do this week. You understand? So, from my experience, it's a good idea, but it almost never works the way they have dreamt it. Because what I find is this is my core competence. I might know a little bit of UI, but a lot of other things I don't know, and I don't have time for it because I want to focus on my own work. But this is mostly the dream of all companies. They want everybody to have their core competence, but know a little bit of every other thing. You understand? So let's come back to that question you asked. So yes, everybody maintains their skills, but don't be surprised if sometimes companies say, "Oh, we want to be T-shaped, we want to be T-shaped." They're just saying, "We want you to know a little bit of what every other person is doing, just in case they're not around. You know how to pick up some of their tasks." Does that make any sense? All right, great. So we're gonna take a little bit of a break. We'll take a. I expect everyone to be back at 10:40. All right, so go get some coffee, something to drink. 10:40, we're gonna really see some of these things in action. And if you have any questions when you come back, bring it up, bring it to the table. All right, see you guys later. All right, so I started the recording again. So this, guys, so you can take your hands down. Um, so this is a platform called Azure DevOps. Let me make it bigger. This is a platform built by Microsoft. It is an application or a software that facilitates um, software development strategies like the Scrum Agile we're talking about. So those things we talk about, you heard some words like backlog, sprint. This software makes it possible for or facilitates or helps that to happen in a more seamless way. So all the team members can look into it. It also does more than that. But for today, I want us to focus on this menu tab they call boards, right? Just focus on this. And you see, I'm actually in the wrong project, so I'm going to go back. You can actually have multiple projects registered. So the project we're working on now, the one I gave you guys a test on, is the Enquete. So I created a project called Enquete Scrum. So that's the one you guys should access. So if you go in there, you see a lot of menu. They all do different things. But what we're going to be focusing on today is boards, because this is what we are going to need. Now, I'm going to explain two things for you. So we have the sprint log. So we're going to try to understand what the sprint log is, what the sprint is, or the sprint backlog is. And we're going to start with these two first. So let me get my pen and paper again. So remember that, let me see, yeah. So remember I explained to you that the business talks to the PO, the product owner, with a list of things they want to build, a list of ideas they want to build, features, requirements, right? That's what they discuss with the product owner. The product owner takes this information he got from the business, most of the time discusses with, takes this thing, sits down with the analyst, with the business analyst, and ask the business analyst, do you understand this stuff? Do you know how we can really make this stuff happen? Do you know all these facets? And the business analyst says yes. So together they break this down in different parts. So the first thing they do is they take this and they put it in a They put it in a what you call it, a basket. Let me call that a basket. They call an epic. So an epic is a very huge requirement. So let's say, how would I give an example? Say, take for example, you want to go on a holiday. You're traveling to Nigeria, right? And you have 4 children. So that's a big project. But you can, in order for you to be efficient with project management, you have to take something big and learn to chop it into little bits. So you take, I want to travel to Nigeria, and you break it down into what you call epics, which is make it a little bit smaller, but not too small. So you're going to say, on travel to Nigeria, the first epic will be preparing for the kids' clothes. Then another epic will be preparing travel plans. Then maybe the last epic will be buying gifts. So you have 3 epics, right? So if you look at those 3 things I mentioned, they're still very high level, right? So we have, I can't remember what I said, but they're just very big. So, but it chops it down to a little bit of manageable parts. Then you take each of those manageable parts again and break it down into, so like this one now, let's go back. So you take one of this epic. So this is epic one. Sorry, this is epic one, epic two, epic three, and you break it down into what you call features. So features are also, so maybe this one has 2 features, this epic has 2 features, this epic also has 2 features. So maybe yeah, so we let me remember, one of the stuff I mentioned is travel plans, right? So maybe this epic one is travel plans. That's your first epic, travel plans. Then you break it down into features. So first feature would be good um uh first feature within this epic will be, you title it maybe get visa, get visa. Second one will be this is a travel plan, right? The second one will be get vaccination, get vaccination. You see, all of these are part of this, but then broken down into further steps. So we have get visa, get vaccination. Then, and these are called features. Features. Then from this feature, you now take each of these features. So this is feature one, feature one, feature two. This is feature two, feature one. Then you now take each of these features, you now break it down to what you call user stories. See, this is where user story now comes in. Story. So this, to take for example now, this first feature was get visa, right? So your first user story will be buy tickets, buy train tickets, buy train tickets, buy train tickets. Another user story from this same feature will be let's see, um, uh, check will be check that all check passports that they are not I don't know, check that your passport is not expired. Then maybe another user story here will be um, exactly, make an appointment, thank you, and all of that. So you see, at the end of the day, this requirement that is coming from the business was first
Make an
broken down into
appointment.
epics, which is high level big chunks, and then an epic is broken down into features, which is also a little bit high level, but a smaller piece of an epic. And then from the features, you now create your user stories, which is the actionable task that the team will now work on. Now let us see. I hope this analogy makes sense. I'm going to clear this out, and we'll see how this looks like. So if we go to the product backlog now, I'm going to switch. Let me cancel this. So I'm going to switch these stories to epics. Okay, Chinos has a question. Okay, you have what?
I still do not have access to the link, but I have the.
But
Like I'm part of the team here, but I don't have. When I click on
okay.
the link on
Let me
WhatsApp, it
see. I think you
says I
sent
do
me
not
your
have
email
access.
address. Let me just check.
But
Oh,
I'm part of the
thank you.
what's
I
it
forgot
called?
to
The
record.
research link.
Okay, so so let's look at our original project again. This is the base project, which is write a test plan for the new enquete, which is very big. It's a whole. I mean, yeah, you want to test the whole website. That's a lot, right? So how do we accomplish this? What we do. So this is basically the business. The business is coming and saying, guys, I want us to test the whole enquete website, and we are going to also build new features. We are going to rebuild Enketo website. You understand, right? Now the PO goes and discusses with the business, which is what you see here. The product owner discusses with the business, gathers the requirements, right? Then when they gather the requirements, we now we now scope it and say, okay, we're gonna do the registration page and the login page, but it's part of the big requirement of Enquete.com. So we have to break it down into epics, features, and user story. So of course, as you can see, if we go back to the screen, as you can see, I have not designed all the epics yet, but the first epic I'm picking is user management and security. And you see, if you look at this, registration page and login are actually user management and security. So that's the high level stuff. That's the first thing I want us to work on. So if you click on this link now, you see I give a description of what it is. The user management and security epic encompasses all activities needed to provide secure and reliable authentication within the Enquete.com application. This includes creating new account, logging in existing users, managing user profile, and ensuring appropriate access control to protect sensitive data. I also put what the business value is. The business value of this epic, if we complete it, is it will increase users' trust and confidence because, yeah, they know that their data is secure. It will enable personalized user experience. That means when you log in, it's going to say "Welcome, Darlington." It's going to use your name in most places, and users can also customize and their data and all of that. And it also forms the foundation for future enhancement like user role management, password recovery, account security, and so forth. So this is why this epic is important. This is why this part we want to build is important. That's what business value is. Business, why is important to the business. Success matrix. How are we going to know if this is successful? Um, the success is the success matrix is when we implement this feature. I mean, this epic. When we are completed it, it will make it impossible for people that are not authorized to access our systems. Um, we'll also be able to measure it when people sign up, or we're going to see how much people sign up every day because now we register them, and it's also going to reduce the time to deploy and maintain authentication related changes due to the DevOps automation system. So it's just basically saying that um, so this is a term that I'm still going to introduce to you guys. So let me try to explain this in a way that I'm not going to get ahead of what you guys know. Um, so it's going to make it easier for us to not, instead of deploying the whole package, we're going to focus on just a small subset, right? So let's just keep it at that. So again, this is the epic. You see, there's no requirements here. There's no this is what you must do. It's just a global information of what we need to build and why it's important, right? Then from this epic now, if you click on this arrow here, you see I added a feature to it. So this epic comprises at this moment of one feature. So this is a further breakdown, but I can also add more features under here. But for now, I just added one feature. So we have the epic. Now I broke that epic down to a feature. You understand? So at this point now, I only added more. I'm probably going to add more in the future, but I just added one. So this is also a further breakdown of this epic. Now under feature, you see I gave it a title, user registration, and secure login. That is what this feature would be focusing on. So we have the epics. Out of that epic, I took a slice and I named it user registration and secure login. Now, if we click on that, what is the information in there? So this particular feature, this is what we're going to be working on. So this feature addresses specific needs to enable new users to sign up for an account and existing users to securely log in. This is a little bit of what we talked before, but now I'm going a little bit focusing on user registration and secure login. That's what I'm focusing on. Out of that big epic, I just took one subset. Now, what is the acceptance criteria? What is it that needs to be completed before we say that this feature is done? Registration. Users can submit value. So you see, the requirements are coming to the front now. These are the requirements. So what is an acceptance criteria? Users can submit required registration details, for example, email, password, via a secure form. The system validates input before creating an account. The system stores users' credentials securely using best practices. The users received confirmation messages or email upon successful account. So when this is the success criteria or acceptance criteria for the registration process, more or less saying this is the requirement for the registration page or the registration process. Then we have for the login, we have these requirements. Users can log in with a valid credential, all of that. We also have non-functional requirements like security. The application enforces and secures HTTP to prevent credential interception. So that means it should be secure, and it actually mentions what type of security you want to have, HTTPS. The application follows industry best practices for authentication token. So this is more of what we call non-functional requirements. You want to check, okay, what are the practices that it uses? Does it use JWT just as it's specified? The system also logs authentication events. That means when users log in, the system registers every of those activities somewhere in a log file, in a database somewhere, so that we can monitor what's happening on the website. Yeah. Do you guys understand what logs are? Okay. Okay. Let me put it like, who doesn't know what a log is? When you say system log. Okay. So I'll take it. Everybody understands. But yeah, a system log is just basically a system, you know, logging all is its activity. If you even go to your computer, everything you are doing in your computer right now is being logged. You just don't know. If you want to find that, if you want to, one of the most important log on your Windows machine, if you want to access it, it's called system log. So if you just go to your search and you type, event log or event viewer, let me just pull it up to show you. So you see, most of you don't know that this actually exists in your Windows machine. This is a logging system that logs all the activities, all the behaviors that happens in your computer. So if you click on application now, you see all of this. You see, these are all information of things or applications I have been using and what it is. So you see the source, it tells you where it's coming from. This is my desktop manager, what I did. So this is more of your system logging the activities you are doing now. Mostly tech people know how to read this and understand what is going on here. So every system is very good to always have a log. So that's just what that is, just in case. A little bit of sidetrack there. Let me see. So we talk about the requirements, security requirements, and we have DevOps and deployment. So it's also saying that there's also a requirement here, automated build and deployment integrated using CI/CD pipeline. Now, yeah, I'm going to push this back a little bit back because I don't want to flood you guys with too much information. I'm going to explain what this is. This is actually a very big and popular word in the tech space. You want to know what that is, but I'm not going to bore you with it now. We're going to look into this later. Um, it also says that relevant environment variables are stored securely. That means you should not be having database connection or passwords lingering in your code. So if we deploy it, you should not be able to find passwords in the codes, or or probably someone paste login on this DevOps stuff. That's not secure. Then we have authentication tests. The software wants to have stuff like unit tests, integration tests, and all of that running automatically using the pipeline. This pipeline again is coming back, and I'm going to explain what this means, but not today, so I don't overload you. So what we'll be focusing on for this coming sessions is just these two. So we have these two requirements, and I would explain this again. So you see, these are called non-functional requirements because this is not a requirement that you can test like this one. This one is saying the application enforces secure HTTP to prevent critical. So you have the way you have to test this is very different from this ones. These ones you have to manually go into the system and play around with it. So again, this is a feature, but you still see that it's just explaining what needs to be done under this particular subset. So this is like a slice of bread. From the main big bread, we took a slice called feature, and this feature will be focusing on user registration and secure login, and these are the information connected to it. Now, when you now open the feature, that's where you now see the user stories, the tasks that needs to be done, right? So that means these user stories will take everything that is inside this feature and now break it down into actionable tasks. So if all of this user stories are completed, that means that this feature is now complete, because all of these user stories should contain elements or requirements that are found in that feature. But the only difference now, it's broken down into actionable tasks. That means we can now share it within the team, and you can say, okay, Darlington, work on user registration. Chinonso is going to work on email confirmation. Obina is going to work on user login. You see, because we broke it down to actionable tasks. And you guys probably know the power of task. Even in your daily life, you're always being encouraged, when you wake up in the morning, create a list of tasks for yourself. If you just say, oh, I want to do all of this, most of the times you will not accomplish it. You want to learn how to take a big stuff and break it down into tasks, because it makes it more manageable and easier for you to accomplish. But in a team setting, this breaking down of tasks even makes working way more efficient, because now you guys can distribute the task. You can say this person works on this person works on this person works on this. And that brings us to user stories. So I want you to look at the hierarchy. A user story hangs under a feature. A feature hangs under an epic. These are all methodologies these are all systems that are used to help break down a big requirement. So you have a big requirement, you have to learn how to break it down into different smaller chunks. And these are terms you're gonna hear a lot. So if somebody says, if you're in a company and they say, yo, there's an epic we are working on, you should understand that what that means. The epic is a very big bulk of stuff. And maybe you'll be saying, okay, the epics, have they broken down into features? Yes, we've broken down into features. Or the analyst still needs to break it down into features. Okay, it has been broken down into features. Okay, do we have user stories under them? No, we're still working on the user stories. So just for you to understand the flow, and when they're talking about it, you know what it is. So now we are going to perform what we call a refinement. We're going to see how a refinement works in a team. Before we start that, do we have any questions? Okay. So, all right. So no questions. So, all right. So first of all, I want to welcome you guys to the refinement. In this refinement, we'll be discussing these user stories, because these are the user stories that we're going to have to work on the next sprint. So the first one is user registration. Now, the user story goes as follows. As a new visitor, I want to create an account so that I can access the application protected features. So this feature basically is saying that a new visitor should be able to create an account, and the reason for that is when they have an account, they can actually access features of our website. Now, if you go further to the description, it says a potential user should be able to enter their details, such as the email, password, in a registration form. So we do need a registration form. The system should also be able to validate um, those inputs that come in for that new user. Now, what are the acceptance criteria for this user story? We should have a valid registration. So, first of all, given when you're on a registration page, when I enter a valid email and password meeting the specified complexity requirements, then my account should create that account, and I should receive a success message in my emails. Another thing is also duplicate email handling. So given my email is already registered, when I try to sign up again with the same email, then I am prevented from registering and I'm shown an appropriate error message. So this has to be in place. Input validation. So given I enter an invalid email format or a weak password, I'm shown a clear message prompting me to correct the input. And four, secure password storage, the password should be hashed and salted using industry standard encryption technique before being persisted to the database. So this is what this user story is going to be about. Now, do we have any questions? Do you guys understand what needs to be done? Okay, Obina. Okay, so very good questions. Yeah, very very good question.
The
So
industry standard
um,
for the encryption,
so I think
industry
you have
standard
to rephrase your
encryption
question a
technique.
little bit.
Are
Remember,
we
this
going
is
to
a
get more
refinement. In
details on
this
that?
refinement, you want to have all the information needs to be clear for you. So probably, if I have to rephrase your question, is what is an acceptable industry standard, or how would we know an industry standard? Yeah. So now that you said that, so you see now this we're actually in a refinement right now. So you asked the question, and that question is not clear in this user story. So now you have prompted me as the analyst to clarify. And anything I clarify,
Yeah,
remember,
yeah,
it's very
yeah.
important to put it in this stuff so that it will be documented. I have to add it now. So since you answered that question, to answer that your question now, I'll add here, um, if the developers use um, password hashing techniques used uh, provided by Microsoft, such as Microsoft Identity Provider, that would be enough. Now, this text might seem a little bit vague, but I'm going to explain it. So remember in this meeting, Obi, you are not the only one in this meeting. There are also developers in this meeting. You understand? So that question you asked, what the analyst will probably do is ask the developer. Now, the reason I wrote this is me, I'm an analyst and I'm also a developer, so I know this. So the analyst now is going to ask the developer, okay, what are the industry standards that we can use? Now, me as a developer, I'll be like, oh yeah, for this project, we have a system that is given to us by Microsoft because we're going to develop this using a .NET C Sharp programming technology, and they already gave us uh, uh, a password hashing technique that falls under a package we call Microsoft Identity Provider. So that one, Microsoft has already engineered it to be secure. So all we just need to do is use it. We are not going to build anything from scratch. We're just going to use what Microsoft has built because they have made sure it's really secure. So now that's what I responded back in this meeting, no, as a developer. And then the analyst now added, okay, in that case, if the developer uses password hashing techniques provided by Microsoft, such as Microsoft Identity Provider, that would be enough. Am I making sense? So you asked a very good question. As an analyst, I'm not a programmer. So the analysts now ask the developers, which are also sitting in this meeting, what is an industry standard
Yeah.
encryption? And remember, the leaders in the tech world these days are Microsoft, Facebook, all these top guys. And Microsoft has already designed something. All we just need to do is use it. So the developer gave that feedback back, and the analyst is happy with it. And the analyst now added that to this stuff. So, like I said, it's not enough that the analyst say it with his mouth. No, he has to put it in the document because this is the document you're going to always refer to. Because sometimes the analyst could say something or could not say something, and he'll say, "Oh no, I told you to do this. Oh no, I said this. I said it during the meeting, but you did not document it." Or he might even lie that he did not say it. So make sure if you have any interaction with the analyst or even with the product owner that affects a user story, it has to be documented. It has to be written down because that's what you guys will refer to, and it will prevent misunderstanding. Next question. Is there any question? So this is the refinement. This is how the refinement goes. Constance. So what is the question?
What are the valid password
Very good question
requirements?
again. So you see, you have to start thinking for
What are the
yourself as
valid,
a
like
tester.
it says
You see,
a
me now,
valid
if I was a
password,
developer, me, I'll be thinking
but
me
like what
myself as a
is
developer.
valid
Okay, this
for
one.
this?
You as a
Because
tester,
it's
you just have
different
to
for every
think,
website.
what is a valid password? If I want to test now, how can I test it? So tell me about what's a valid password. So which is what you just asked now. So which means I have to put that in writing. So I'll say the password must be at least 6 characters long and must contain at least uh, one number and a special character. So special character is at sign hash any of this stuff, etc. So you see, for you now as a tester, that part is now cleared. You know what to test now. Let's go to Ify. Okay. All right. Success message
So my
is
question is in the number one and number
very
two.
good
And
question.
the
You
number
see,
one,
you're asking
uh,
questions as a tester
what is
because
the
if
success
if these things
message
are
you're
not clear,
expecting? And
that means you're going to test
number
it
two,
differently. Obi is going to test
what
it
is the
differently.
appropriate
Blah blah.
error
So
message?
good question. So the success message should state your registration was successful. Okay. Second question. Okay. Give me my email already. So I'll say the error message should
The number two,
be
the appropriate error message.
this email address already registered in our system. Okay. So to come back to you guys, so because of me as an analyst, I explicitly put in this error message here, put in this success message here. You as a tester, if you go and test and you find that this R is missing, you are going to mark it as a bug. You are going to send it back to the developer. Why? Because it does not meet the requirement. Look, if I as a developer now build it and what you see is your registration was successful, you are going to flag this as a bug. False. Because this is not the requirement. The requirement says your registration was successful. So you as a tester would test against this. Would test against this. Right? So that's very good. I just want you guys to remember. So as a tester, your eyes will be sharp. You'll be like, okay, this is the message I'm seeing, and I'm seeing is missing the word system. So sorry, no, I'm not letting it through. If I has another question, go ahead. Hello, if I can't hear you. I don't know if you're saying something. Okay, good. Also good. A weak password. Let me see.
Oh, sorry. In the
Given
number
I
three,
enter
like
an
how do we
invalid
know
email
if a
format or a
password is
weak
weak?
password,
Like
I'm shown. So an
what makes
invalid
a password
password,
weak?
example, sorry, an invalid email, example. Yeah, I think invalid email speaks for itself. An invalid email is an email that is not an email. So an a valid email must end with at
And the
and
clear error
then
message.
something like name, and then dots. It must end with another stuff. Com. Or sometimes you might also have. It doesn't have to end with .com. It can be NL, NL or something. And then sometimes it can also be multiple stuff, but it has to have a dot. So like sometimes you might have UK in the middle, so it's at say something like this, dal at researchlink.uk.com, or is it .co? Sorry, .co.uk. I think UK uses that .co.uk. So these are all valid. It has to have this format. So when you're testing, you have to test this normal format .com whatever and the other format. So let me just put it. This is just an example. Well, let me put it like this. A valid email. Just put it like this. Valid email example. So it will be dal@email.com or dal@co.uk. So these two are valid emails. Then the other question was a weak password. A weak password. Uh, password that does not meet the requirements stated above, also stated in criteria 1. So if you look here, a weak password is a password that doesn't adhere to this stuff. So you already get, uh, yeah. If a password does not contain, is not 6 character long, does not contain at least one number or a special character, then it's a weak password. Then let's see. Then the error, show a clear error. Uh, weak password error should display password is too weak. Yeah. All right. Any other question? So weak password. Okay. So let's try. Let's try. So
Error message for
error message
invalid
for
email formats
invalid
and weak
email
password. Okay, shown for
should
weak password.
be uh, email. Email is invalid. Yeah. Sumbo, I saw you raised up your hand.
Um,
Um.
maybe I got lost
So
while the class was going on. I was kind of busy
how would
with
I put
kids.
this?
Um, do we get
So I think
an account to use for this test, or do we create our
you're going
own
to have to create
account?
your own account. So if you look at how this user story is, you have to register. So there are actually no account already existing, and ideally you'll be testing this on a test environment. So it's okay to to put in rubbish. So point is, no, there's no text account because this user story is about registration. So you cannot have something existing and then register it. So you're going to think of you're going to in your test case you're going to specify an email and use it to test. You understand? And even when you get to this part where it prevents you from duplicate emails, right? You would have, before you get to this test, you would have already registered an account. And then if you want to test this, you're going to write a test case for trying to register again with the account you already registered before, with the email you already registered. So there is no already test account. You have to create a test account. I mean, you have to create in your test plan. You have to create, specify an email, use it to register, and probably at the end of everything, delete that account if it's possible. If it's not possible, you leave it, because you see, at this point now of this whole story, at this point of our development, we've not built the feature that helps you delete an account. You get what I mean? So if I told you now that you should add to your user story a cleanup, where when you are done, delete the account you already delete the account you just created. Yeah, you ask me how. I don't know. I'm not a developer. I don't know how. Do you understand? So at this point, you cannot clean up, because we've not built in that feature. One of the features we're going to then build as we continue to go is enable users to delete their accounts. So if that feature exists, then you can go ahead and update your test case and say clean up by deleting the accounts you just created, because now you can now follow that process and go and click on that delete, and the account will be deleted, so that you can reuse it in the future again. You get what I mean? Okay, so we have Constance. Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember, this software is a software. Yeah, remember, this software is a software that should allow everyone to
So,
be able to register. So
okay,
yes, you can use
see,
your
so
private
we need
email.
to register, right? Can we use our own like private email
Maybe in the
to
future,
register,
when we've
or
built
do
out a
you
lot of functionalities, then we're going to have
use
a
a
user story where, or we're going to discuss and say, okay, let's use a specific list of emails for testing. But at this point, remember how Agile works. We're not building the whole castle. We're building features, and we are building user stories bit by bit. So at this point, we should just be okay with everybody registering, and I'm sorry, we should just be okay with the test case allowing all kinds of email address to be registered, because we have not gotten to the part where we can clean up, where we can limit our test case to be like, okay, these are the emails that we should be used for testing. We're not there yet, because you remember, we build gradually as we go. We keep getting better, we keep refining, we keep going. Any other question? Okay. So this, what you guys just experienced now, is how a refinement looks like. The business analyst comes in, tells you guys, the business analyst in most cases have already uh, created the user stories. Then during the refinement, he comes and he explains what needs to be done. And you see, while I'm explaining what needs to be done, you guys are noticing that, okay, fine, but how would I know what a successful password is? How would I know this? And that is because you as a tester need to know what to test, and which is exactly what you guys did perfectly. Because while I was explaining the requirements. Yeah, the requirements make sense, but they're too ambiguous. They're not easy to test. They're like, okay, how how would I know what hashing technique, what is that? I don't even know what that is. And because of you ask that question, the analyst specifies more. So don't go to a refinement and be like, okay, because you're going to struggle when you're writing your test, because you don't understand what needs to be done, and then you start guessing. No, during your refinement, you ask the analyst exactly the questions you guys just asked, because those questions are now answered, and then you can now go and write your test and be like, this is what needs to happen here, this is what needs to happen here, this is what needs to happen here. Now, you could also have been in a refinement and you overlooked something. If you overlook something, or you didn't see it, or you didn't think about it, it's no problem. Just make sure that during the sprint, before you pick it up, you go back to the analyst and say, okay, guy, um, what error messages should we see? The analyst is like, oh, I didn't specify that. I'm going to specify it now. Then when he tells you, let him go and edit the user story. Or both of you should open the thing and you can type it in yourself. And while he's watching you, I'll be like, yeah, okay, I'm going to change it. You agree that that's what you guys have agreed on. Because that's going to help you later if there's a misunderstanding. You'll be like, okay, no, I talked to the business analyst and we documented it. You understand? And even if you scroll down here, take for example, that happens. a very good culture is you scroll down here where you have discussion. You say you come here. If you use the word, if you start typing with the @ sign, you see, if you put the @ sign, you see the names of everybody in your list. Then I'll now say, okay, you look for Darlington. Let's look for Darlington. You say Darlington. Um, no, you can do something like this. You can say, I I had a brief discussion with, you now put @ Darlington. So the email appears here, and we agreed to adjust the requirements a bit. We added the exact error messages that should be displayed, and you save it. So this will make it possible that in the future, if there's any misunderstanding, you'll be like, I noted it here in the comments that I had a discussion with the business analyst, and yeah, we kind of explicitly added that. So in a lot of user stories, you should also scroll down to the comments to see what discussions has been happening, what changes happened and stuff. So it's always a good idea to document what happens. Anything you discuss outside this refinement, please note it down. It helps with communication within the team. But this is exactly how a refinement looks like. This is how it needs to happen. Um, and then the next step that happens is once everything is clear, the that means this user story is ready to be added to a sprint. It's ready to be worked on. So what I'm going to do today now is I'm going to because in view of time we're going to stop now. I'm going to assign each of these stories to one of you. So you have to create test cases for it. So we're going to work as a team now. If I has a question.
So, like you said, during the refinements, in case there are some things that
No,
are missed
no, no, no.
or
The
there's some
moment you see
adjustment
it,
that needs to be made, that is okay to
you call
maybe
the analyst immediately.
talk about it later. Like
Call
but
him. He's a member of
talking
your
about
team.
it,
Call him. Yeah, I want to meet
is
with you.
it
There's
in the
something
next
unclear.
sprint or do you have to
Okay.
wait after two
Do you have
weeks?
time now? No. Can we meet in an hour? Yes, we meet in an hour. You have a Zoom call. You meet him face to face, depending on how the company is, and then you guys sit down, look at it together, and you make the adjustments. You do it immediately. That's the benefit of a Scrum team. You guys are close. You guys work together. You don't need permission to ask to meet anybody. You do it immediately. All right. So now, as you can see, all of these user stories are already being added to the sprints. I created a sprint. So let's see. Let's go to the sprint board. So if we go, so this
All
is
right,
the
thank
backlog.
you.
This backlog means all tasks. So I'm going to limit this instead of Epic. I'm going to show only the user stories. So these are the user stories that we have on our backlog. So I want you to visualize a backlog. Let me use my drawing again. So a backlog is a document with tasks, tasks. There's just so many tasks. So these user stories are part of this backlog, right? Then a sprint backlog is, we said, out of all of these tasks that we've put here, we're going to work on just this four. We're going to work on this four in sprint one. So we're going to take this four and move it to another backlog called the sprint backlog. And then we are also going to specify when the sprint starts and when it ends. So we have the global backlog. See, this is the global backlog. All the user stories are in there. And then we have the sprint backlog. The sprint backlog just takes a few backlog out of this global backlog and move it to the sprint backlog and say, okay, we're going to focus on this during the sprint. So if you also take a look at this user stories, you see here I moved all of them to sprint one, which is our first sprint. Now, let's go to the sprint. When we click on sprints now, we're going to see this is our sprint. and the sprint I already gave it a start time. The sprint starts today and ends on the 14th of February. So if we look at it, how many weeks is that? So it starts today and ends on the 14th. So that's 3 weeks. Is it 3 weeks? 14th. So that's approximately a 3 week sprint, approximately. So I'm going to save that. So the sprint actually starts today. Now, now that I clicked on the sprint backlog, yeah, on the sprint. So sometimes if you click on it, you see this. Okay, let me go from here. If you click on this, sometimes you see this. If I click on it again, the view changes. If it happens, just click on one of this again. It shows you this. So now, let's assume now we have all refined this. In view of time, we have all refined this. Now we have to start. I want to assign it to you guys now. So what usually happens is within the team, every team member picks a task, but for now, I'm going to assign you guys one by one. So I'm going to say, okay, the first one, Sumba, you're going to pick that up. Email confirmation. And when I mean pick it up, Sumba, you're going to write the the test cases for this particular user story. So he's gonna write the second one. Justin, you're gonna write the user login, the test case for the user login, the logout. We're gonna give that to no, let me give password enhancement to Ify. Obi, you're going to work on where is Obi? Yeah, Obi is gonna work on the logout sessions. Let me see who are we missing? Constance, right? Constance, Constance, we're gonna give you Constance. We're gonna also give Constance. So two people are gonna work on one. Let me see which one is gonna be quite interesting for you. So user registration. Uh, I'm gonna create a task. Task. Sorry. Test case. I'm gonna give it to Constance, and so is gonna do, and Sumba is gonna do the same thing. Test case. So I'm gonna give it to Constance. It's Constance. Yeah. So you see here we have what you see here is the sprint backlog. So you see the sprint is active. This is the sprint backlog. Uh, from here you can generate tasks. So you guys, before you start working, now that I've assigned your name, come in here and break down this work in smaller tasks. So how now I just put test case here, but I can imagine you can come here and say on the email confirmation, you say your first task is understand. The first thing I'll do is understand the requirements. Then I'll make another task. I'll say create a draft copy of a test case, and then I'll come here. I'll say create a final version. Then I'll create another task. I'll say ask my colleague asks other testers for a review. So this is how you have to work as a team member. Break down your original task into smaller tasks, and then when you start working on one of them, you move it to active. So it shows that now you are busy with this. That will help the product owner when it comes to the board. He's going to see what everybody is doing and what stage you are. So take for example, you're finished with this part, understanding the requirements, you move it to close. That means you're done with this. You pick up the next one, you put it to active, and that's how you keep working on all your tasks till you're completely done. And when you're totally done with your task, you come here and you change the status from new to closed, and that's done. Then this task will be done. Then another view, if you look up here, another way to look at this board is to click on backlog. So it kind of places it like this. So remember, this is a sprint backlog. Now check the difference between a sprint backlog and a backlog. So if we go to the backlog, we kind of see the same thing, but the reason is because on the backlog, I've assigned all of the items you see here to sprint one. And we are actually in sprint one. As you can see, this is where do you see it? This is actually sprint one. You see that here. Now, What if I add a new task? So I'm going to add a new item and call that test. So if I add it now, I'm going to make sure that this user story is not in sprint one. I'll just leave it on the backlog. So if I save it now, you see now that I'll move it all the way down. You see we have a test here, but if I go to the sprint, now you see you don't see it here because it's not part of sprint one. So like I said, the backlog is a global collection of all items or all user stories we're going to work on. And then a sprint backlog is a subset where the team is going to be focused on during a particular sprint. So I want you to be familiar with these two things. So these are two popular views. If you click on backlog under sprints, you would see them. You see the view changes. If you click on taskboard, you see it in this format, and then you can add your tasks easily and move them and iterate them through different phases. Let me see. Let me open this one. So I'm gonna just delete the stuff that I added here because this was all for example cases. Delete all of this. So again, make sure you create tasks for yourself. I will be looking at this board to see the progress. Then um, for Constance and Sumbor, because of I kind of joined you guys will be working independently, but create tasks for yourself. Remember, when you add to create a task, you click on this plus button. When you add a task, assign the task to your own name. So if you say maybe Constance, you're the one that created this, just say I'll say analyze user story. Maybe Constance created this story. Then just come down here and click. Make sure you put it under your name. So where's Constance? Yes. So that way I would know that you are the one working on this kind of stuff and move it accordingly. Move it accordingly. So yeah, I'm gonna delete this. I see Chinonso has a question. Yeah, so I'm gonna open that. I think it was a mistake. New. Put it on the new. So this is not a task. This is called a user story. A task is under a user story. So if you click on this plus now and
Yeah, I
you
see that
say
my
task
task is
one,
closed.
so this is now a task. So you can see also the icon is different. So this is a user story. This is a task. All right. Chinoso again. You have a question? Hello? Okay. So again, the moment you start working on your user story, please change the status to active. That means active means I'm now busy with it. So if you start working on your user story, when you start
No,
actually
I don't.
working, create it, change it to active. Now it's on new. Constance has another question. Okay, okay, that's a very good question. So generally, you would not put the results of your work in here, but for now, I would say please put it here so that I can see it easily.
So when
And
we
the way you
write the
can do
test
that
case, do we
is
put it
so remember
here
again,
then in the
in the real
active
world, you're
boxes?
not going to put your test
Like,
case in here. No. But because of I want to see your work easily and I want you guys to familiarize yourself with this system, I want you to do that. When you're done with your test case, click on the user story, go all the way to the left. You're going to see this, what do you call it, this icon that says attachments. If you click on it, just add your documents here. Just click on that and upload it. So that way I can come back and look at it. All right. So as you can also see, the normal process though, the normal process is that a developer is actually going to also be simultaneously developing while you guys are busy preparing the test. So for example, this user story now, uh, uh, the developer will the developer will go and create this registration page.
mm.
But for now, we're going to kind of separate it. I want you guys to write the test plan first, and we're going to do this whole sprint again using this same item, and then we'll focus on testing. And when we focus on testing, that means you're going to use that your test plan now to now test what the developer has developed. You understand? But yeah, the goal is I want you guys to start familiarizing yourself with the system. Find time to also click around, play around with stuff. the more you get conversant with this DevOps environment, yeah, when you start working in any company, because these are this is a very popular tool that is being used almost everywhere. And if you also understand this motion, this movement, you're also going to understand other similar tools. There's also another very popular tool that is very similar. It's called Jira. I think Obina is very familiar with Jira, or partially familiar with Jira, because I work with Obina using Jira, but it's the same idea. It's just a different company, a different interface, but the same idea. You create your user story, you have a sprint board, you move stuff from one place to another. So if you understand how this works, if even if you go to another company and they're using another tool, you're going to understand the process. It's just the same idea. Any other question? So for those of you that have looked through, that will look through your other stuff, it's very clear that you might come across, because now we only refined one, and but I'm saying that we have to assume that we've refined all of them. So that means when you go through your user story, if there's something unclear, you will contact me, you understand, and you would let me know so that I can clarify. Just as you contact your business analyst and say, okay, this is not clear, this is not specified, can you work on this? And remember, follow the stuff I tell you. If you make any agreement with me, ask me, am I going to document it? Or should you document it? I can say, okay, yeah, document it. That means you come down here and say, I had a discussion with Darlington, and we agreed that we added this and this to this. You understand? So that's because I want you guys to start doing this stuff, because that's how you work in a dev team. And the more you know how to do all of this, your employer is going to know that, okay, this person knows how this works. He knows how Scrum works, and the better you do it, the yeah, you make yourself invaluable. You make them know that, yeah, you know what you're doing, and yeah, the money they're paying you, you're worth it. Yeah. So quite a long meeting, but I think it's worthwhile. This is really important. This is really interesting, and I think this is. I don't want you guys to only feel that lectures are coming. I want you guys to go hands on, and this is an exciting way to really test what is really happening out there in the companies. All right. So that brings us to the end of our training today. I wish you guys have a great weekend. Remember, we have 2 weeks. This sprint is gonna last. It's gonna. Why did I even make it 2 weeks? Oh my God, this is. I'm gonna make it 1 week, because yeah, we're not. We're not. Okay, fine. Let's make it 2 weeks. So next week I'm gonna give more theories, but then we're gonna go back to our normal regular training. But yeah, play around with it. Also, valid points of
Have
Nonso.
mercy,
So
have
the
mercy.
environment
We
is
are not
new.
used to the
Play around
environment
it.
yet, so 2 weeks
But
is fair
focus on these
enough.
areas that we're working on, especially the backlog and the sprints. Update your stuff, and familiarize yourself with it. You can also go on YouTube and Google it, DevOps environment. There are different people give trainings on it. Just gather as much knowledge, because this is the tool. Yeah, it's actually one of the most popular tools in the tech industry today. All right, I wish you guys a wonderful weekend, and stay in touch. All right, have a good weekend. All right, all right, bye.